Hi, it's Ed Cohen in San Diego, California. We have an international cast with us today from India, Divaka Gupta, Virtual Relo, and from New York, Diane Devitt, who is a media expert, a reformed or recovering actress, I guess is the right way. No, you're on a mute right now. And so we're going to hear you momentarily. From Helsinki, Nana Haninen. Thank you so much for coming back to this. I know you're preparing dinner for your family, so we'll be quick. Julie Taylor from the Bridge School .net, and our special guest Brian Hageman in Phoenix area. Brian has invented an engine that does not use any electricity or any fossil fuels. It's all on hot water. That's brilliant. And he's busy getting it all into the marketplace. And he's going to show us a brief video. We're going to do that in just a few minutes, Brian. We're going to be joined by Chuck Brooks and a couple of others. But we're going to begin right now. Let's go to Helsinki area, Finland. Nana, your specialty is a photographic artist. Now, this show is all about a continuation of our earlier discussion about genius. Not to soft soap this at all, but you guys have really developed, each of you have developed something very unique, and it's an innovation, and yet it's very practical. And so very quickly, we're going to learn about this. So Nana, you are a photo artist, is that correct?
Yes, I have a long career as an artist. I have over 20 years of international career as a professional photographic artist. That's my third.
All right. And you are, of course, a business entrepreneur as well. And you've developed a method, a system that's in Silicon Valley, and it's in Madrid and elsewhere. Tell us a little bit about about it, and how it's a business deal, how it works for you in business. What is it?
Okay. So I have developed a method which is called NEMO, and it uses photographic art, conceptual art of mine, and photographs taken by the participants of workshops. So what we do is we help organizations to develop their culture, their values, their strategy, but we have a new kind of a twist in the facilitation process, because we use actually art, photographic art, and each participant that comes into the facilitation workshop will take photographs as well. So we kind of have a creative approach into organizational development, and that is what we do.
Okay, so people look at a picture and then everybody shares what they're thinking about as it relates to a business situation?
Yes. Well, I have here a few pictures, so I thought I will show you some.
Please.
This is one of the latest images that I have done. It's actually shown right now in a big retrospective museum solo that I'm having here in Finland. And this work is called How About the Future? When I took this photograph, there were not these big forest fires in Australia and also not in California, but there were these small, ordinary, every year fires that were going on in California, also when I was visiting there with my company. But when I placed this work on the museum wall, which was this year, February this year, the Australia was burning. And now California is burning again. So I'm talking about the future. And what is our future? What's the situation with the climate change? Where the climate change is taking us. But when I show this for my clients, for my business clients, for example, in organizations, I might ask them, I can ask now you, what do you see in this image? Or how do you see your personal professional future, for example? So maybe someone of you could try to answer.
Okay, let me jump in, and then I want to go to Diane because she's so creative. So I see sort of looks like a trash fire, or this rather than, sort of like last night's debate, like a dumpster fire. So,
Sorry for you guys.
I know it's really crazy, but is it controllable? Can we do anything about it? What about air pollution? Nana, what do you see?
Well, actually, when I took this, one idea was the accidental things that are happening for the Earth. I was actually thinking about meteorites, which hit Earth, which has been hitting Earth since the times the Earth was. They killed the dinosaurs, the meteorites, and so on. So actually, the original idea was to kind of resemble a meteorite that's flying from the sky and hits the Earth accidentally. We don't know. That might happen again. And this is taken on a lake that is frozen at my summer house. And actually, two meteorites have hit the lake on that house, but in very different times, very close to each other. So there has been an accident in a way that accidentally they hit the same spot, but there were tens of thousands of years in between these hits. So I was originally talking about that, and then these forest fires and climate change became into my into my topic as well.
So Diane, what do you see with that burning mass?
Well, the first thing that I thought of, I thought of the environment, but what superseded that was just the concept of things going up in smoke, and that there are new beginnings ahead, and that this is affecting the globe, that whatever is happening is melting away what existed previously.
So it's forming, metamorphosis in a way. It's forming.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's forming, yes.
Okay.
Reshaping, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Brian Hageman, what do you see?
Thank you, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, great.
Great, okay. Nana, is that acrylic or watercolor or what media?
This is photograph.
That's a photograph.
This is a photograph. It's a wooden ball that was actually made by my carpenter brother. It's a form. I don't know if you know platonic solids. It's a dodecahedron form. The wooden ball that I burned. It's a big ball, 1 meter. I don't know how much is it in your scale, but anyway.
Yeah, that's about 3 feet. Meter. 3 feet diameter.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful piece. Do you do a lot of that type of photography? I mean, it's amazing.
Well, I do many different types of photography. I usually photograph in studio, but I create always my themes and topics. I create them myself. I don't usually go to the nature and photograph something that exists, but I actually, as I say, I'm conceptual artist. So I create my own reality and speak about that in my images.
So I want to go to Julie. Julie is an educator with the Bridge School. What do you see, Julie?
I know that you made this for climate change is what you meant, but I feel like right now with COVID and just where our world is right now, I feel like kind of like the Phoenix, like this is almost like the burning of the previous way of how we did business, how we did the world, how we did education. And we're starting over. We're really rebuilding it. And that's what you have to do after you have a massive fire too.
Yeah. Divaka in Bangalore, what do you see there?
So yeah, I think it seems like the core of the earth is on fire, and that's what humanity's created, and it's our planet which is burning. So it feels more like that to me, and it's gotten too deep now for us to actually change the perception and help the earth heal. Sometimes I feel that I think we guys have gone too far to really cure the world again, cure the earth again. So I'm worried about what we're going to leave behind. So it feels like that to me.
Isn't that interesting? Nana, do you have a second one to show us?
Yes, I can show you another one.
Thank you.
Mm.
Little
There is a
glossy.
bit, can you see this?
Yeah, it's a little glossy, and we only see half of the man's face.
Yes, that's the point. Only half of the man's face. This artwork is called The Arrogance as a Defense. It's actually a very good time to bring this photograph because of the debate of your president yesterday. But this image is talking about that arrogance is a defense system in us, in people, and we all know arrogant people, but we don't know what's behind these people. We don't know what they have been going through in their lives, that they had to take this arrogant jacket on them. Of course, some are just really stupid, and that's it, arrogant and stupid. But many people have traumas in their past, or maybe their family has traumas in their past, and that's going on in the family, and we don't know what kind of a history this man has. So this image is talking about that psychological safety, maybe even. This is an old photograph that I have been collecting when I was in Paris, actually, in art residency. I collected old photographs and I kind of reframed them and used them in a new way to, again, bring my conceptual thinking into the images. And especially when I go to organizations where there are team building issues or things like that, I bring this image there and I ask, what do you think about this? What do you think about the challenges in teams in general, and so on? And these kind of images help actually clients in organizations to talk about difficult things, like difficult people, maybe difficult situations between people.
Interesting.
I love it.
Thank you.
What do you love about it?
Well, it's personal and it's internal and it's external. So for the looking at it first, you could say, okay, what does every man put on that everyone sees, but then there's the real person behind them, that mask that we can wear. And then it's everything that Nana pointed out, that it's we never know what triggers someone's behavior. We all have triggers from our past that affect how we react to things. And just having the have, I think it's very strong, Nana. I love the idea. I love the image.
Divaka, what do you think?
So, Nana, here's a question. You said this is arrogance, or ego that you're portraying out there. And how do you define the half face as arrogance? I am still trying to figure that out. The half face could be the half face could be the other side too. Not the arrogance, but the calmer side of the person too.
Well, this is actually what I mean, that there is the other side in us. We just don't see it. It's behind the mask, and we all have these roles, actually. We all have, it might be a funny role, but it's a sad to see a person who is too funny and scared to be the real him or her, So it is about that. And I don't say this person was arrogant. This person was photographed 100 years ago, and 100 years ago, the cameras were so bad that people had to stay still and they were not allowed to smile. Actually, they had this iron thing behind their head, that the head was not shaking when they were photographed, and they shouldn't be smiling. So I have no idea. This person might have been the most nicest man on earth. We don't know. This person doesn't live anymore. I haven't seen this person ever.
That's fantastic. The way you've related this to the picture.
Can I say one more thing too? Think about this.
Sure.
Is the arrogance of sometimes we don't want to recognize who we really are. Sometimes we just become what other people perceive of us, and we don't embrace that other side. So there's that part of it too.
Yes, it's very important that we get this self-awareness who we really are. When we should first know who we really are. Then it's easier to confront the others. But many people don't even want to know who they are. They are scared to look at themselves.
Julie, what do you think about this picture? I have just mixed feelings about it, which we'll get to me in a minute. But Julie, what do you say?
Well, I think that for me, the larger picture is I've done a lot of the personality training with my teams, and conflict resolution, or the DISC training or the Myers-Briggs, and finding out your own style of communication and your own habits, and also being aware of other people's. And I think this is probably a very good tool to lead into something like that, where you're talking about how each person has these nuances and how you can still communicate, because you're still going to have to work with people, even if they are, super arrogant, or, whatever the personality is, you're going to have to find a way to work with them in the business world. And so I always love those types of insightful conversations and trainings.
Yeah. So I see it as, just a little weird, because he looks like he's in thought and looking down at something, and very coiffed, very severe, straight part, and hair glued down, almost like mine, but very old. I mean, he's probably 100 years old, right? Or maybe 50 or 60 or 80 years old, because it looks like he's got one of those old stiff collars with the black tie around it, and he's probably got a vest on, which means he's maybe a professor, or maybe he's an austere gentleman. I don't know. Brian, what do you think?
Unmute. Yeah, no, it's a great conversation too. The gentleman in the picture looks like he was an important figure back then, getting his portrait taken like that. But the one thing about arrogance that I wanted to bring up is I went to acting school earlier in my life, three semesters at a community college here, and did live on stage theater, which was wonderful for me to do it. But what I learned is that after you do this type of acting on stage, you develop an incredible amount of confidence. That the confidence level goes through the roof, and to a lot of people, it comes off as arrogance. I see it all the time with actors. Sometimes when they're doing interviews and stuff, their confidence comes across as arrogance, and I think we mix up that trait sometimes. And but I appreciate the photograph, Nana. That's a wonderful thing to have around. I love art. I keep a lot of it around too, and I'm glad you shared that with us today.
So, Nana, I know you've got time issues here. Do you have one more picture to share before you have to leave?
Yes, I can show one more. Let's have this one.
What is that, a bed?
It's a rhyme. 500 pieces of paper. You put this one in the copy machine, and it pulls out lots of different papers afterwards. It's called Space Number 2. This work. It's actually 20 years old. This brought me to the fame in the first place. This particular image 20 years ago in Berlin Art Fair. I show this.
Yeah. What is it again? It's paper.
It's 500 pieces of paper. It's a rhyme. Okay. I think you call it rhyme.
We say ream. We say a ream. We say a ream of paper.
Ream of paper. This is a ream of paper. Yes.
Okay. Great.
I show this often to my clients. This image.
Yeah. And so, why do you love it?
Well, for me, I don't know how you see this now, but for me, this image is very intriguing. This piece, this ream is intriguing because this is full of potential. I can start to write a poem. In there, I can make a paper airplane out of this paper. I can draw something in there, I can, put it into the paper ball and throw it away. So this is for me a huge potential that I see in there. This is like a horizon into my own mind that I see in here. Some of my clients, they see here endless task list, what they have to, they have to do today or tomorrow, and they feel heavy. And some see the potentiality, but I don't know what do you see?
Well, here's what I see. Okay, so this is a paperback book and pages, and it's got all these words on it and stuff, right? And what you have behind you is a blank slate. What do I want to do with me? Or how do I want to reinvent me so I can survive in the COVID environment? So, Diane, I can see you jump in here. What are you thinking?
Listen, I love these. I use these in my. A beautiful. First of all, it's a beautiful photograph, Anna. I mean, it's just even on the screen. I mean, the little I see, it's very striking. But the first thing that comes to me is the stories to tell on one page, but also the conversations to have, and with that, every single emotion known to mankind is reflected in those blank pages because of the discourse that will ensue from the conversations that will be written on them.
So, Divaka, give me an Indian perspective on a bunch of white paper.
You are on mute.
Sorry. Yeah. I said I'll dive deep into it and give you the Indian perspective. I think to me, it seems like what Nana said, a lot of possibilities. It's a ream of blank sheets. There's so much you can do. You can write your own story. You can write a book, or you can just crumble it and use it as just throw it into a basket. There's so much that you can do. So it just gives you possibilities, and I think it's a beautiful picture, Nana. Talks a lot about.
This is really good. Brian, you're a scientist, a research scientist. You've invented an engine. So we're going to get to you, and we're going to show your video in just a couple of minutes here. And then we can say to each other, now, what does this machine mean to you? But what do you see when you see this block of paper?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think I'm the same as a lot of people here. We see potential. For me, it wasn't so much potentially what I could be doing, but thinking about what that's going to become. Will it be a Bible, maybe of some sort, or will it be paper planes? But I see the potential of somebody doing something with that stack of sheets of paper.
So, Julie, you're into technology and online distant learning, and yet you look at the old world here of paper. What do you say?
I agree. I think it opens up to a lot of different possibilities. But honestly, my first thought of that is all of the essays that I had to write in college. That's what I remember.
Yeah. Nana, thank you so much for being our lead on this today. You set the stage for a beautiful program. I really appreciate it. You're certainly welcome to stay. Brian, your engine runs on hot water. And if it's used for desalination and purification, water purification in the desert, and elsewhere, that's like a miracle, Brian. So congratulations on that. Paul, why don't you get ready to show the new video that Brian has built? Brian, why don't you set it up and talk about your invention?
Yeah, well, thank you. I've been working on it for a long time. And one of the things I've learned reading books is that, to preface, I get pulled off in a lot of different directions. This technology has a lot of different applications. I get pulled in a lot of different directions on what to do first. But I've finally decided I got to create this beachhead, A beachhead is a business plan term talking about you got to start somewhere first, get a hold of an area and dominate that area with your technology, and then take it global. So that was the premise to this short video that I put together. I tried to keep it under 4 minutes.
So what you're doing is getting water that's not usable to be usable for agriculture and for life in the desert, right?
Yeah, and this type of, it's called brackish water. It's not ocean water, but it's too salty for human consumption. And this type of water exists all over the world, many different places, India, Bangladesh. There's a lot of places that have huge aquifers of salty water that can't be used. And my technology easily, with solar thermal energy, pumps that water through reverse osmosis membranes that cleans it up and allows us to use it now and without any outside electricity.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Hageman, and my company, Deluge Technologies, is developing a beachhead right here in Arizona near my headquarters. And it's an amazing opportunity because the city of Buckeye, you can see the farmland on the map, is sitting on top of an aquifer that's a massive underground water aquifer, but it's too salty to use for drinking or for ranching or farming. The crops that you see are high salinity type crops and not for human consumption. And we plan to go in and desalinate the water provided to the farms, and so they're able to grow crops for human consumption. This huge aquifer that I'm talking about, in some places, is barely 10 feet deep. It's a very shallow aquifer, and so the salty aquifer actually gets into the roots of crops and destroys crops if you try to grow them in that area without dewatering. So the city is constantly dewatering, trying to lower that level of the aquifer, and all this water is just dumped into the nearby river, but lowering the level of that aquifer, making this salt water available to me that I can just take it right out of the drainage system and desalinate it and provide it back to the farmers. Our standard size projects that we'll be putting up on farms is a 1 million gallon per day desalination system using reverse osmosis membranes that will desalt the water, but it's using my technology as a pump. That's the big difference. My technology as a pump doesn't use any electricity, so we can desalinate at a much lower cost, value proposition that no other desalination type of product can match. You need to have my solar powered thermal engine to make this work. We're planning on building 6 or 7 of these 1 million gallon a day plants in Buckeye to serve the farmers, and then build a large desalination system that will pump water up a pipeline north to the Central Arizona Project Canal to supplement water from the Colorado River water source that we have here in Arizona. But along the way, that pipeline is going through a residential area that's to be developed, an area the size of Scottsdale, Arizona, that's barely 1% developed. They can't develop because they don't have any water. So this will provide a new water source to the North Buckeye residential area. Our manufacturing process will be refined during the first few plants that are built in Buckeye, and then we'll be able to manufacture for global expansion. We're going to be focused on population centers in the Middle East in various countries, Israel and Saudi Arabia area, and then India has a lot of need, and all over Southeast Asia. So the global expansion will take place. It will start taking place, once we have our manufacturing processes refined, but then we'll be ready to go. Thank you for your time. We'll see you soon.
Brian, this is brilliant. So tell us more about your process of getting this thing into use.
Well, a lot of it is the nuts and bolts. I mean, it's they say what is it, 99% inspiration or perspiration compared to 1% inspiration. It's a lot of it is the nuts and bolts. In fact, I'm going down to the water department down there that takes care of these pumps and check salinity levels with my ppm meters, and a lot of it is just on the ground talking and developing the business plan, and then bringing in not quite venture capital but seed funding from local sources, grants, possibly some small investors to get started, and then work our way into the green bonds funding source that Arizona supplies to water projects in Arizona. And if you're an energy efficient source, it's called a green bond that actually forgives 20% of the principal when you show the efficiency. So, and a lot of nuts and bolts involved, and it's a lot of talking to people, getting input from the city of Buckeye, getting input from the water conservation district that handles this water, and then also my background has been based on many years of technology development, including a lot of work I did over in India, Dwakar, at IIT Madras. You may be familiar with IIT Madras.
Of course, yeah, that's one of our premium colleges.
Yeah, a professor there and one of his PhD students did over 200 tests on an engine that I built and sent over there, and we did a lot of work there, and also over in Madras. And actually, my solar panels were built in Pune.
Oh wow!
For that project, but it's a lot of detail, a lot of work, a lot of listening, understanding people, understanding their needs, without getting my confidence in the way and acting arrogant, and understanding the needs of the people is what really needs to happen with a technology like this.
So is the governor a pal? Is he a supporter?
Well, I get a lot of support from people in Arizona. The governor himself, I haven't talked to yet, but he's aware of what I'm doing. I stick mainly with the other levels. Arizona Corporation Commission, they regulate the water company. So the water company that I'm building is going to be regulated by the Arizona Corporation Commission. They'll be more involved in what I'm doing. But yeah, we like to talk to the politicians when we need to.
Yeah. Okay.
And as my buddy Barry Goldwater Jr. that'll appear on the show someday here with us is my political door opener. If I need to talk to anybody in politics, I go to Barry, and he opens that door for me.
Yeah. Thank you for introducing him recently. And when he's ready, we'll certainly do Genius 3.0, and we can expand this even further. So let's go to Julie. Julie, you're an educator with bridgeschool.net, online learning, 20 years successful, fully accredited. What's your latest Genius approach?
Right. Well, here's the thing. I think that's really important, Ed, is that this has been around for a long time. Online learning has been around for 20 years. It's not anything new. But what's happening is now other schools, other countries, and US included, are being forced to go into this online format in different states, depending on the regulations with COVID and the pandemic. So what's happening is other schools are trying to get up and running in a speed where they can maintain the integrity of their school and still provide a good education. And some schools are doing it well. Some schools are struggling. It's just the nature of the beast. But what I'm hearing a lot from families as I'm enrolling, we've got a really big boost in interest in our school because we have that longevity. And, we have figured out how students can learn in a virtual world and not have to be in front of Zoom for 5 or 6 hours a day. And that's really important. And I think that that's what parents are really wanting to see is how can the students learn at their own pace and, not get hung up by the pace of the class. They are stuck going and sitting on these Zooms where they might not need to sit on the Zoom call because they understand it, but because of regulations and oftentimes politics, like you were just mentioning, Brian, is there's a lot of politics involved in education and in attendance requirements. And so we are able to offer a great education through a digital platform, and students are really able to get honors courses, AP courses. They're able to get that higher level coursework and succeed.
Yeah, thank you. Diane, what do you think of all this?
Well, first I have a question for Brian, which is where does all the salt go when you desalinate things? What do you do with the salt?
Yeah, that's a great question. The industry has had a issue with that of dumping salt back into the ocean. What we do is dry it. We use our solar thermal collectors and actually squeeze out more water out of it, dry it out, and sell the salt. It's a perfectly usable salt. Not so much for table salt, but for your water softeners. Or we have a lot of pools now in Arizona that are converting to saltwater pools in your backyard, and there's a big market right up the street from us. Morton Salt mines salt out of the ground, and we'll be using the same type of technique they use of drying out the salt in salt beds and using the sun and selling the salt. So it'll actually be that'll be another revenue stream for us is selling salt.
Well, I have been using salt personally for 20 years to take baths. The best salts that I have are from the Dead Sea, and to have salt as pure as what you're harvesting in this country, I think could be another avenue for you to look into from a wellness point of view. All right, because salt has so many curative aspects and attributes to it. So when you're going for funding, it might come from a very different place. Instead of the water purification could be the salt result, and that's what went through my mind with that. First of all, is a Shark Tank would be really good for this. I'll help you go on it. Anyway, but with Julie, I'm an adjunct professor at NYU, and I was asked many years ago to teach online, and I have to say I resisted it at first because of the fact that I was teaching meetings and events, and at that point everything was live. How do you teach tactile? And my background is creative dramatics and drama therapy and theater, so I know how to educate and bring that creative motivation in, which is what this year is all about. I have a purely virtual class. I'm having a great time, but given the fact that technology has also evolved from 15 years ago, it's allowing those of us who are creative and do understand the sense of engagement on the screen to do things that we normally couldn't do, like just case in point, this meeting, to have Finland and India, SoCal, New York in one place. It's allowing me to collectively bring the students in education from all over the world.
So I want to go to Divaka because he's got a meeting to go to, and it's late at night there. So Divaka, thank you very much for being on the program again. I'd like you to please introduce yourself to everybody. Send your email around in the chat. Divaka, can you do that?
I will certainly do that right now.
Yeah, good. Because, Brian, Divaka is very plugged in to business in Bangalore and also Delhi. And you guys ought to continue. Of course, everybody ought to continue. Our job is to bring people together. And so thank you for being there.
Thank you, Ed. I think it's amazing being introduced to such a diverse panel and learning from everyone.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
Here.
So you guys have been in the corporate relocation business for a long time, but what you and Rohit have done and others has developed a video.
Hiring the right talent is paramount for the success of any corporate. Oftentimes, this requires the relocation of the workforce from other cities to their work location. Relocating to a new city can be a stressful experience, which may in turn directly impact the overall productivity of the employee. Historically, most domestic hires are provided with a lump sum relocation allowance and then left to fend for themselves. This results in them having to invest a significant amount of time and effort to identify a suitable property, choose the right packers and movers, and thereafter struggle in dealing with multiple vendors. Further, the cultural differences and limited knowledge of their destination city could add to their woes. On the other hand, hiring managers of these corporates have to ensure that they provide the best onboarding experience, an integral part of which is a successful relocation. They also need to maintain cost efficiencies. The need of the hour is a relocation expert who can address all these challenges and improve the overall experience while still ensuring maximum savings. Presenting Virtual Relo, an online ecosystem that makes the process of relocation for the ever-increasing mobile workforce extremely easy and transparent. Most importantly, the cost saving for the corporates is going to be substantial, given the enhanced support they can now offer through the unique Virtual Relo platform. Virtual Relo offers a host of features that makes the entire relocation experience hassle-free and also provides corporates with complete control over their employees' move. Virtual Relo is designed to curate a list of properties as per the employee's exact requirements while providing them with the option to save on the brokerage amount. Virtual Relo organizes quotes from some of the top packers and movers in India, allowing easier comparison and informed decision-making. An online smart lease that assists with local rental terms and conditions. A guide that provides an overview of the destination city to ensure the employee gets accustomed to the new location quickly. Providing shared housing solutions for employees with limited budgets. Help employees with value-added support services like furniture rentals, white goods suppliers, etc. Corporates can now have greater control by tracking each step of the relocation through Virtual Relo. Save time and effort on vendor management, reduce the cost overheads while improving the employee experience. Virtual Relo is a game changer in the relocation industry, combining decades of our knowledge and expertise with cutting-edge technology to extend a hassle-free solution to both the corporate and the employee. Virtual Relo, an ICANN Raypath initiative.
Why don't you just describe Virtual Relo?
Sure, it's a pleasure to do that. So as you mentioned, we've been in the corporate relocation business for almost 24 years now. And I think the whole dynamic of the industry has changed where, what's really lacking is transparency to, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Am I audible? Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So what's really lacking is transparency to the end user, which is the corporate employee who's actually relocating. There's so many factors involved in deciding how and where they should relocate. So we wanted to create some technology which will create that transparency. So this technology, Virtual Relo, was created basically for people moving within India to start with, where companies give them a lump sum and they're supposed to relocate on their own. And India being such a diverse country, every city in India is like a different country. There's different language, different foods, different type of housing, different terms and conditions of signing a lease. So it's actually more difficult for an Indian to move within India than a foreigner or an expat coming into India. So we created this tool where we could bring in the end user, which is the corporate employee who's relocating within India, with the actual service providers, the right kind of realtors, the right kind of packers and movers they should use. Because there are no regulations in India, and anyone can become a mover or a real estate agent overnight. And these employees were getting fleeced. They had no clue what terms and conditions to use, whether a realtor was escalating rent and quoting to them and getting them properties which were half the rent, but these guys ended up paying double amount of rent, or using the right kind of packers and movers, because by the time the goods reached, there was no insurance given to them. Half the things used to be either broken or stolen. So our job, I thought, being in the industry for so long, we thought it's time that we took responsibility for using technology to bring the right kind of vendors on board. So it's a marketplace where we introduce the relocating employee to verified vendors, who are dependable, who have a reputation in the market. And the model works on a reverse bidding model. So to also ensure cost saving for the person who's relocating, they get the best movers at a reasonable cost, because all these movers are bidding against each other. The realtors are bidding against each other. It's a very open system, a transparent system. So that was our focus, to try and bring a change about in the market, try and bring some sort of a regulation using technology, and also to create awareness for the corporate that you're giving a lump sum to the employee, but at the end of the day, a happy relocation means a happy employee and a more productive employee. So they need to start investing a little more.
Thank you, Divakar. I really appreciate you sharing that. Julie, do you have a school set up in India?
We do not currently have a school set up in India, but right now, one of the things that we're doing is we're working with a research group that looks at international schools across the nation. And so we are looking for different schools that we can partner up with and work with them in either a hybrid partnership where they are able to take some of the courses with us that maybe they aren't able to offer at their local schools. And that includes like the honors courses or the AP courses. And we're also looking at different schools internationally that are interested in offering dual diplomas, meaning that they can still offer the diploma in their country of residence, and then they, through us, can obtain an American diploma.
Interesting. Divakar, are there online accredited schools, K through 12, in India?
So most schools have gone online during the COVID period. Starting from the absolutely local domestic government schools up to all the international schools. India is currently 100% on online education. We don't have, I'm not sure whether they're accredited or not, but as of now, 100% of the education is being delivered online. But there are a lot of regulations coming around that. The amount of time the kids should spend in front of the computer, the effectiveness of online education. But what I can tell you is I have a friend and my neighbor who has today become an icon in online education. He started about 5 years back, and today is one of the largest online education company in the world. I think his Series C or D fundraising was about $400 million recently. And so you're in the right field, Julie, and there's a huge demand. But like you said, you need to do something different. You need to ensure that education can be imparted without the kids staring at the screen all the time.
Yeah.
So that's where the future is, I believe. A hybrid model.
So Diane, would you agree that teaching acting is a good idea in high school when kids are younger, and then continuing that into people our age to better enable expression?
Yes, is the short answer. It's not for everybody, but I do think, and this is going back to the discipline in theater that one of the disciplines I studied is called creative dramatics. And creative dramatics is using theater games for a variety of results. Teaching and using theater techniques in students gives them confidence, gives them social skills, gives them interactive ability, helps their imaginations grow. And so I think when you say teach theater, yes, but be specific with what avenue of theater. I mean, maybe acting is not for everyone, maybe directing isn't, maybe production isn't, but using creative drama techniques as a therapy and a tool to enhance communication, I think is what's needed now.
So here we have Brian, who's a research scientist, and he has this alter ego as an actor. So I'm not laughing at it, but it's just like an amazing juxtaposition, Brian.
Yeah, no, I did it earlier in my life. I had just finished my career in building nuclear power plants and was going back to school, and I was taking accounting, and I wanted to try something totally different from an engineering standpoint, and thought, well, geez, I'll try this acting class. And it was the best thing I ever did in my life to help me have the confidence to speak in front of people. I have to do that a lot, and it was wonderful. I think everybody should do it, whether they want to or not. I think it. I happen to have some really great acting coaches, acting teachers at Mesa Community College in Arizona, but it was a wonderful step in my life.
And
Right.
one more thing on that too, Edwin, what it does is it gives you discipline. People don't realize the discipline you need to act and the self-care you need to act. So there's a big development aspect in that.
Well, also, Diane, probably, I don't know about all of you, but I feel like as I age, I feel like I'm losing my filter. so maybe some acting classes would help me with my facial expressions when I'm shocked at some of the things I hear.
Yeah, no question.
So what about in business, like as a marketer, a salesperson? It's not intended. My question isn't about deceiving people with acting techniques, but just a way of communicating, particularly with difficult people.
Well, think about it this way too. The actor has to be extremely flexible. It's live what you do. So one of the tools, and Brian will relate to this, is improvisation. You have to be so in the moment, so focused, so concentrated. In my business world, I preferred hiring actors because they could think on their feet. They knew how to speak and communicate with people. And they also are solution driven. If you're in a show and someone forgets their line or something happens that's not expected, boy, you have to think split second, keep that show going on.
Exactly. Yeah. If I can add that it is a lot of work. Learning the lines, memorizing the lines, that's one part. Memorizing the cues of when you're supposed to say what your line is next. I've been in plays where one of the actors would all of a sudden skip ahead 3 pages, and everybody would go, "Now what?" We just kind of roll with it. But life is not scripted, so that background has helped me in life. That's not scripted, and that's where we got to put all this into play is in life and working on your feet, being able to relate to people.
So Diane, this is not about politics, okay, what I'm about to say, but last night on the debate, the role of the moderator and in a difficult situation like that on live TV and millions of people watching, I like Mr. Wallace, and he's in a difficult position for sure at Fox. But what would you say could have, would have, should have been done to get control of the situation as a split-second dramatic teacher? What's your perspective?
There are three things that came to my mind after the debate last night, and I thought about this as an event producer, Ed. One, you control a teleprompter and you control a mic. So if those mics, if at the very onset of the debate, it said, gentlemen, you're given 2 minutes, and after 2 minutes, your mic shut off, automatically go on to the next person.
Perfect.
This way it's fair game, it's out in the open, it's set, and you know that that's it, and you're shut off. So you can handle it that way. And that could be in a lot of situations, right? The second thing is if at any point in the debate last night, Chris Wallace had taken his hands, put his hands on the desk, and just stood up and not said a word.
That would have
caused a reaction, like an awareness of what's going on. Controlling adults is more difficult than controlling students, right? Children, right, Julie? And it's not, and this is not the first time, but so I think there are gestures. He did what he could to get attention, but physically, from a production point of view, that can supersede if the ground rules are set. Gentlemen, here are the cues. Mic goes off. I stand up. Or we take a break. We literally say, we're going to take a break. And then you set the game rules in the middle of the debate. Those are my three things that I thought of.
Well, that's brilliant. I really thank you for joining this discussion. I have to tell you, when I was building the show, it was just Brian and me, okay? And then I said, well, let's expand it, because the idea of being a genius, or coming up with a new twist on something, or a way to do something different, this could apply to everybody in business. It's just a matter of perspective and then explaining how it all goes. And so I thank you all for joining us. It's made for an intelligent hour, and I'm sorry, but we should end the program here and go on to the next version in a few weeks. If I could have you all back, that would be very cool. I thank you, Brian. I wish you Godspeed with this. And, I'd like to ask you, off the wall here, the Gulf states, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, they're getting inundated with water. How about getting a pipeline built to send all that water here to California so we can use it if we need it to put out fires? I mean, can that engineering be done? You would think so, huh?
Well, sure. If you want to build a pipeline, you can pump anything. I think water conservation is the key, and my thinking in conservation is a lot of clean water that's dumped back into the ocean in rivers, in the river deltas, whether it's the Mississippi or the Los Angeles River that dumps into Long Beach. That water is still good, but then it gets dumped into the ocean where you can't use it anymore. We need to learn how to manage the water sources better and make sure we're using every single drop of clean rainwater before it gets dumped back into the oceans.
Well, that's good. Never would have thought of that. Julie, thank you very much for being on our program. I think this is number 4 or 5. I certainly welcome you back more and more. I'm learning so much about distance learning and about, the whole industry about that. Amazing stuff going on. And you guys, you and Chase, you're right in the forefront. And so I'm really honored to have you involved. Diane, I thank you. Let's do this more. I love your approach. I love the theatrics. Long time ago, last century, one of my first professional jobs after college and getting out of the Army was in a company that owned movie theaters.
Oh.
And it's morphed into CBS, Viacom, but at that time it was much smaller. And so I had the benefit of being taught by the bosses. And I was just a kid at the time. And they retained me because I loved movies. I used to go to the movies Saturday afternoons when I was growing up, all the time. And my dad was a nut with his little 8mm thing, And so I always grew up being a comedian in front of his camera, So, so it's turned out to be a PR career for me and selling things. But the movie guys hired me because I told them that they needed a young guy. At this time, I was like 26 or something like that, and sure enough, Woodstock came along. And these old guys, what do they know about smoking dope and sitting in a theater, So I said, you may not like it, but this one's going to be a real big hit. And you ought to buy it. In other words, rent it, make a deal with Paramount Pictures or Warner Brothers or whoever had that. And before it gets popular, because it'll be a big hit in the college theaters. I owned a lot of small theaters on college campuses. And so I was in charge of helping those bookings as a kid, just learning, do this, do that, with the specific films. Not Sound of Music, that was above my pay grade, but but Woodstock was right there, and the Rocky Horror, show, and other cult things. So they made a fortune by buying these things at a cheap rate. And so I've stayed in that business about 10 years. I should have stayed in it, but I didn't. So putting a program like this together is like going back to the future and bringing things forward and applying it to businesses. And I look forward to a long future, but it's not me. It's about bringing people together and making it comfortable to share ideas. And so thank you again.
Thank you, Ed. Always a pleasure. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Please communicate with each other. Okay, this is Ed in San Diego, Diane in New York, New Jersey, Brian in Surprise, Arizona, I think. Is that where you're from, Surprise?
Well, I'm next to Surprise in Sun City, Arizona.
Sun City, yeah.
That's where I'm at now, but I used to live in Surprise. It's right next door to Sun City.
Yeah, great. And Julie in LA Metro. Thank you. And Divaka is in Bangalore. And Nana is from 100 miles or so north of Helsinki, wherever that is. And it's thank you all for being on Global. Bye-bye.